All right, everybody. I'm just gonna be real. Welcome to another episode of Talks with the Tax Cop. I think this is season 2, episode number 7. Y'all know I'm trying to be a little bit more consistent. If anybody looking at YouTube, y'all see I took my glasses off. Y'all know I can't see without these glasses like that. This is because I'm irritated with technology not letting me be great. Why is technology not letting me be great today? Who knows? Maybe because I didn't 100% prepare with my tech team, aka my son, who know how to help me figure this stuff out. Needless to say, we are here for those who are here for the first time. Thank you. My name is Patrice L. Berry, EA, aka the Tax Cop. And if you've been here before, you know anything is about to pop off on an episode that we can right have. Today, I have a guest, y'all. I love interviewing. I told y'all, anybody who's listened to the podcast the last couple of weeks and y'all been listening to me boringly talk about accounting topics and tax and that, I mean, I love tax, y'all, but I love to interview people because I want everybody to see how much we're alike versus us being different and what's going on this entrepreneurial journey and get some nuggets from somebody besides myself, right? So today I have none other than all the way from the A, Steve, the finance guy. Y'all, I gotta give y'all some backstory before I get in here to harassing Steve on today. So Steve reached out to me via DMs. He slid into my DMs, y'all. And I was like, hold up, wait a minute. It was nothing inappropriate. So anybody who knows Steve, like, you slid into her DMs? No, it wasn't like this. He wanted to let me know that he was a real person and that we are in the same industry. And he wanted to reach out to just see if we could have a conversation. Y'all, we had a conversation that if we both didn't have consults, probably could have went on for hours and hours and hours. I'm telling you,
easy.
like when you find your tribe and you find somebody who like you know what I'm saying, talk the way you talk, think the way you think, really want to be out here serving the way you serve, and you find them on these internet streets, it's a great thing, y'all. And so I had to tell him because we had to stop the conversation. And I said, Steve, I got to record a podcast for this week. Do you mind being a guest on the podcast? He was like, let's do it. I love people who be like, let's do it, y'all. Anybody who's doing anything in these entrepreneurial streets, that's the kind of spirit you got to have. You got to be like, let's do this joint. Even when you don't know what you're doing, you got to be like, yeah, we're gonna do this. Sometimes it's safe to build a plane in the air. Sometimes you need some help to build a plane in the air. And today, I want you all to I want to introduce you all to some of y'all know him because y'all on the Instagram, he got way more followers than I got. But he's been out giving great content because like y'all, if y'all go look at my page and his page, he got reels. Y'all, reels make me mad, okay? Because I just be like, huh? Did we do it? I'm not there. I told y'all technology and the team. But I want Steve to start out by giving his, like, I'm in the comic book, so I want him to give his superhero origin story as to how he ended up in this space. Steve does not even realize we have fitness in common too. I didn't tell him that, right? Oh. So I want him to tell y'all his superhero origin story as to how he became Steve, the finance guy. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh man, okay. Thank you for having me. Number one, thank you for having me. Man, where do I start? Like first, how I got here has been nothing but God. Number one, right? So like I'll just so everybody can know that's the context. That's the foundation of kind of where I stand for sure. Like you know what I mean? That's where it comes from. But so I grew up with in the church. My parents are pastors. My grandfather's a pastor. My uncle's a pastor. This is what I don't know nothing else. Now part of that is that's the good part of that is the sermon, the things you come, that come with just going to church every day. You grab the understanding of protocol, the respect, you learn those things. So I had those. I was always a decent person. But I didn't know nothing as opposed to life. So my parents were also, my mom was a teacher, but she wasn't always a teacher. Growing up, she was a she was a teacher's aide, and she was in school the entire time I was in school. So my parents, they had me when they were 19, so they were learning as I grew up. And so part of that is what you don't know when you get older. And so one of the things I did well was I played sports. I was a musician and I played sports. I did three. It was only three things I cared about: musician, sports, and women. I didn't care about anything else
No
growing up.
particular order. I don't know if it was in that particular order.
It's no particular order. No particular order. Whichever crossed my plate first. But so education, we didn't know. Like it was just one of those things we didn't know. I didn't go to school straight out of school. I tried to, it didn't work out. I had some things happen, but so I ended up working. From 18 to like 23, I worked. I had every job you could possibly think of. The post office, Target, Checkers, anything you can think of, I did it. Because you try to find your way. Man works, right? That's one thing we gonna do. So I read, somebody gave me the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, and that was my first kind of introduction to what any and the reason why I worked all these jobs is I kept getting fired. Like something just wasn't, it just didn't, something just wasn't right. Right. And so
let's pause, y'all. For anybody who's listening to this, he telling you, look, I done tried stuff several different times. I didn't even got fired from jobs. Not, you know what I'm saying? Because I was trying to figure this thing out. And I hope some younger kids listen to this, because I know they're pushing in education. I have 4 kids. So I know they pushing in the school system, still go to college, get a good job, make all the money and then retire when you're old. And I have a 12-year-old daughter, and she's like, Mom, I'm only going to the 7th grade. What if I don't know what I want to do? What if I don't? So the fact that, Steve, that you're being that transparent and saying, look, I ain't know, but I went out here and I made several mistakes and had different things I tried in different industries, and it just didn't work out. But yet I still went ahead and kept going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and when I tell, the beauty about what I do is that, like, I'm a regular person. So like when I say I didn't know, it really means I had no clue about what I was doing. Like, so I had no plan really. I was just working. So my goal was to always get a better job than the job before. So like, so you go from $9 to $10 to $11 to $13. Like, and when you get that 15, you hold on to it. Like, especially, you know what I mean? Like, so you know what I mean? So that was the reality. And then I moved to Atlanta in 2008, and that really changed my life, because I saw Black people do things I've never seen. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, so I saw Black people do things at a high level. Man, they were my managers they were my supervisors at jobs. They were my they were entrepreneurs. They were on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. You know what I mean? They were moving in the streets. I'm like, yo, what is going on with this place? How are people, like, in Cleveland, Ohio, the streets are dead at noon, right? You know what I mean? Like it's 9 to 5, the streets, there is no cars on the road, right? Everybody's at work. And so it was a whole nother reality. And then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was like, man, I can identify with this. Like, it just clicked. And so and I didn't have very many gifts, but how I got into entrepreneurship was an accident. I didn't even aspire to be an entrepreneur. I needed a job, and so somebody put me on coaching AAU, and so I was late. And then and with the AAU team, because I was late showing up, I got the worst team in the bunch. Right. It was probably the worst set of 5th graders I've ever. It was like the Little Giants of basketball. Right. And so there's
a basketball. Go ahead.
Listen, they was the worst kids I've ever seen play basketball. And so but what ended up happening was because they were so bad, they ended up the parents ended up asking me, hey, Steve, can you I got a kid, Jake. can you just work with Jake on the side? Like, he loves you, he loves you. Can you come to my house and work with Jake on the side? And so because they were bad, they were also affluent. And so they were the affluent group. So I would show up to this house and say, what kind of house is this? And so I worked out for free. I didn't even think I was gonna get paid. I worked out for free. At the time, I was working at a residential facility called Palmerdale, which is like I worked with the youth, with the worst youth that Cleveland could produce. And so I was doing that full time. So I was doing that, and I was making maybe, like I said, $13-14 an hour. And then so they ended up, and I'm sorry if I'm being long-winded. They
Go ahead. I'm
okay.
intrigued. I'm intrigued.
Okay, so they ended up. So I worked with him for an hour. His name was Jake Lauber, and I worked with Jake. And so his dad, Ernie Lauber, gave me a check for $27 and for that hour. And then he said, "Hey, Jake loved this so much. Can you come back 2 more times this week?" And so I established working with Jake. So at that time, I thought to myself, I said, wait a minute. You just paid me $27 to work with your son, like something that I would do for free. I love doing this. Like, I worked in this driveway. And so that was like, man, okay, I make 13 over here. And my life is I'm like a glorified correctional officer over here. And my life is like borderline on the line. But and I'm like, and then over here, I was like, man, I'm $27, like $27 an hour. And I'm like, I don't know anybody who makes $27 an hour. So then he asked me to come back. And so I literally worked with him 3 times a week. And then I ended up getting the other kids on the team. So at that point, I'm working at everybody's home. And then my rate had just became $25 an hour at the time. And that's how I got into the industry, into the training industry. And then what ends up happening is, what I realized, that when you impact somebody's lives, they typically tell the closest people next to them. And so it's when I started, my true gift is people. So training was just something because I played basketball. So I did that. And then the barrier of entry to train, because these kids sucked, all I had to do was teach them how to make a layup and not fall on their face. Right. And so I'm like, that was the entry for success was like, this was easy. Like, I can teach you how to make a layup. I'm not responsible for having you make the NBA. Right. They just want their kid to be happy. They want their kid to be happy and to dribble without the ball bouncing off their feet. Right. And so that became a real motto. And so before you know it, I started training all of their kids' friends. I started being known as like training all the rich white kids. And that it became a thing. And before you know it, I created a business called London Athletics I did that for like 7-8 years. And I ended up by the end of that tenure, I ended up closing in at $70 an hour by the time I stopped. My highest grossing year was probably around 250,000.
All right, so let's pause right there.
Yeah,
because it's good. It really is good, right?
A lot of that, for sure.
Because a lot of people don't realize in the entrepreneurship journey, I know people told me this, right? So you got to start with something.
Start with something.
Right? Because I told y'all, I'm talking to Steve, the finance guy, not Steve, the basketball trainer guy. Okay? So, 100%. Okay, so start with something that you have a passion for.
100%.
Right? And Steve said he would have did this for free. He ain't had no rate. He was going there for free. He was going to do this for free. They gave him some money. He instantaneously like, oh, wait a minute. Like, this is not rocket science. I'm making money over here on this job. They gave me something. I'm out here playing with the kid who, like, I know I'm better than him. But all I did was spend an hour of time teaching him how to take the 3 steps, which foot to come up off. Well, that's it. And they gonna pay me. And then he labeled it and told y'all, right? He's in the business of people. Everybody who is an entrepreneur is in a business of people, whether they want to admit it or not. We are in the business. It's not, we exchange stuff for money. We exchange our product, we exchange a service.
Okay,
We are
yeah.
really in the people business. And if we don't realize that we are in the customer service or people business, then we're doing it wrong. 100%. And he dropped some nuggets as to, wait a minute, I started at one level, right? Not like y'all, y'all bottom might not be $25. His bottom was $25. And then when he got and transitioned out of that, he said he increased the rate to $70. Why? Because the marketplace was willing to pay for the value he was bringing to the marketplace because they were getting them results and weren't questioning what the price was.
Easy.
Okay.
That's a fact. Like, that's exactly what happened. We, as I grew in the space, because after I moved to Atlanta, I'm like, all right, nobody knew, because I was doing all that in Cleveland. So I was making $25 an hour in Cleveland. And I said, man, you know what? Because I had that job. I said, let me move to Atlanta. And when I moved to Atlanta, I knew what I wanted to do. Like, I said, all right, let's do this. Like, let me find I knew my target. I knew what's the name. And at that point, in Atlanta is different from Cleveland. So what's $25 in Cleveland is really like 40 in Atlanta, right? So I knew that like right away. So I started at $40 an hour in Atlanta, and so I found an AAU team that wasn't good. I knew exactly
got a business model, y'all. You got a business model.
I figured out the business model. It was easy.
Which one of y'all not them? They're my client.
Yep, you my team. Let's rock this out. And so they ended up I ended up getting into a private school and ended up coaching a private school because I needed a gym. So that was the best way to find a gym. And then it blew crazy. And I became kind of like the Fresh Prince. That's what they used to call me, the Fresh Prince because I was the only Black guy out there. And this was now we're at like 2012, 2013. So there were no videos. Nobody knew about. I was making more money than the people who actually played college ball. And I was that guy. You know what I mean? I was making, and what ended up happening was I ended up after a while, I realized I wasn't adding enough value, right? So I really started learning business at that point, right? I started learning business. I was around it. So I'm like, and then, and I really started getting respect from my peers as a business owner. And which is really ultimately in the beginning what you want, right? You want your people to start, I stopped being like goofy fun Steve to people. And I'm like, oh yes, Steve really doing this thing. You know what I'm saying? And so, but the issue was I was a business owner, but when I was out, because I was in certain circles, because of my clientele, I would be in rooms that my business wouldn't give me the value I wanted it to give me. And it hurt me, right? So basically I would meet people, man, my clients were flying me on private jets. I had courtside seats to games, all because I was their kid's trainer, right? And what ended up happening was that I would get in these rooms and I would meet all these people because now I'm an extrovert. So now, I'm exposed. So I gotta meet these people, and they'll say what they did, and so I'm like, oh well, I'm a trainer. And then what I realized is that my value had a ceiling to it. So meaning if you didn't have a kid that sucked, then our conversations were very limited. You know what I mean? So you really weren't interested in my business acumen at that point, right? It didn't go very far. So I'm like, man, like I gotta do more. Like this is killing me. And so I got to a point where I probably had over 1,000 kids at one point. Because I was doing camps, I was hiring, I was ridiculous. So I was about to build a gym. So that's obviously the next logical step in this field, right? You want your own gym. That's the biggest thing. And the truth of the matter is, if I really want to be honest, with full transparency, I got to the point towards the end, this is like 2015, 16, 17, that I wasn't studying no more. Like, because when you train and when you do stuff for so long, if when you lose the passion, when you're not like studying and you're not like, you're not after it. And so I would make up workouts as soon as I get there on the spot. Like, you know what I mean? Like I would, you know what I mean? Like, and so I knew that I wasn't mentally in it. So I was looking for something, and I thought the gym was gonna be that next something. And so I remember going with one of my parents. He was an architect, and so one of my parents' dads, he was an architect, and so we had the plans. I was about to build a gym, y'all. Like I had a gym, and it was called London Athletics Gym, and we rolled it out, and so we looked at the numbers. It was going to be expensive, and so he wrote it up, and he said, "Steve, I got something to tell you. You probably not gonna like it, but I got something to tell you." And I'm like, what? And he said, God told me to tell you that this London Athletics is too small for you.
You got me when you open your mouth and say, God told me to tell you. Anybody tell you some stuff like that? You're like,
yeah.
Now let me ask you a question before you get there, because you've built these relationships. You've had this time with these people. They know you. You know them. Y'all like truly have relationship. They got you on jets. They put you in circles. How many conversations about God had y'all had before he came to you and was like, Steve, God told me to tell you?
So the private school I was at was a Catholic private school. So God was always kind of the undertone. Like people always knew who I was. I mean, I'm not a walking preacher or anything, but people knew, like, you know, they trusted me a lot, to be honest, because of my Christian principles and just the way that I am naturally. That I think that had a big influence on people trusting their kids with me, right? Because at that point I became an extension of their voices. Because when you're a parent and you know, and you have a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 13-year-old, my impact at that point is really truthfully greater than their parents. You know what I mean? I'm the closest thing they see on TV. Everything I teach them, I can do. You know what I mean? I can shoot, I can dribble. I got tattoos from top to bottom. You know what I mean? Like, you know, but I can also speak the language. And so to your point, I definitely think that Christian undertone served me tremendously as I you know, throughout this process. So yeah, 100%. But when he told me that, I almost cried, and for two reasons. Because one, I knew he was telling the truth. And two, like, it's like, what do I do now? You know what I'm saying? Like I got this big business, like I got these clients, like what do I do? Like I can't just let it go. And at that point, I went around and I interviewed all my parents. Like I took them out to lunch, and I talked to them, you know, and I just wanted to know more about what they did for a living, and you know, and all that stuff. And 90% of my clientele's parents were in finance or sales to some capacity. And so that's what made me completely start over. So 2016, I went back to school at Georgia State as a freshman at 26 years old, and I went back and I got my finance degree. So and I was because I was training in the evening after school. The only time available I had was during the morning. So I would go to school like 8 in the morning, 9 in the morning. So I'm going to school with 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and I'm the old guy in the class. You know what I mean? And all that stuff. And I did 4 years, and I went to school and I completed my finance degree. And at that point, business started to make sense. And then I got other opportunities. I started owning event centers. That during that time, I had other opportunities for business while I was training and everything else. So I was really becoming, right? I was becoming at that time. Because when you go to school when you're older, things start to make a lot more sense than when you're younger, because you can apply the information right away.
I was getting ready to say that because I went back and got my master's as somebody's mama. And it's different because you in there, everybody at different levels. And I got my master's at Strayer. And at that time, like, my name, I was in my mid-30s. I was like, first of all, I can't be playing with this money that I gotta get. You understand what I'm saying? And I gotta leverage it. And if I'm gonna get this master's, I'm gonna get it in what I want to get it in.
There you go.
Versus, now, mind you, my bachelor's is in accounting, and everybody, get an MBA. I was like, and we could have went two routes, like CPA or this, that, and other, or you could have went and got it in finance. that MBA, I was like, no, I want to do it in tax. And people were like, what? Like I just absolutely love tax. So I totally get when you're sitting there and you're thinking, you're like, yo, and I got to get in here and because I'm working full time. And at this time,
Yeah.
I'm somebody's supervisor and I got
Come on
kids.
now.
And I
Come
had
on
just,
now.
like when I was finishing up, I had just had my third child. So that mentality is like, look, I ain't got time to be playing. And you're right, because everything I was doing, I had already been doing the entire time and applying because I'm a fitness professional, so I have a Group X cert. I had that
Oh
hustle.
my.
The mentality really was, how can I get out of a gym membership? I'm gonna tell you, the thing that made me start questioning stuff differently was when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in my late 20s. And it was the way they framed questions. My favorite book out of the entire series is the second one, Cash Flow Quadrant. Cash Flow Quadrant for me was like, oh, it hurt my feelings. And to me, it's the best book out of the entire series because it's like, well, you really need to take a look at this, a self-reflection. You got to take a look at yourself and figure out, well, which quadrant do I want to be in? How I want to be in here? Can I be in multiple quadrants? And how does this junk work? Because I ain't gonna talk. Robert Kiyosaki made me feel small because I was in the E quadrant, and I was like, yo. But by this time, I'm somebody's supervisor. I'm making monies. I'm in DC.
Yeah, 100%.
No, this is not this is not what I want. This is not 100% what I want. And I was looking for, everybody call it side hustles and stuff like that. I was like, look, I'm gonna do the hustle always gonna be legal because I always knew about tax because I had the accounting degree. And so that whole mentality was, I just was like, well, I'm in the gym and the fitness instructor, the Group X instructor would leave me in the front of the room. Patrice, I gotta go to the bathroom. You know what is next in the routine? I'd be like, yeah, this routine we did, and I was like, wait a minute. Are you getting paid to have me teach this class?
Come on. That's it.
While you in this gym for free? Because I see you socializing while I'm finishing up the class. And I had to ask an instructor one day. I was like, so how I get to do what you do? Oh, you just gotta take a weekend, go get this certification, do this, and this. Then you could do continuing education, make sure. I said, wait a minute, do you pay a gym membership? And she was like, no, well, I'm at the gym all the time. Wait, you don't pay no gym membership? Do they pay you to come in here? Yeah, they pay me to come in here for an hour.
That's it.
Yes.
That's it.
Teaching a Group X class? Well, I'm already here. I'm here all the time at these classes. I said, oh, this is a no-brainer. I'm about to go be a fitness instructor.
It's a no-brainer. No,
so I totally get it. You walk into the situations, you do what you got to do at that time. And at the same time, I had this whole other business, but I'm not telling nobody I had this business. I'm up here like trying to get, because I'm trying to, I'm legally trying to reduce my W2 income. So
W2 income, absolutely.
Right. So I'm like, the only way to do it is to get a business.
Yeah, get your little self put aside. Absolutely.
Make you some money. Don't make too much. I gotta play this game to offset this money they're giving over here. So I totally understand. But the thing that I think is beautiful in your story, Steve, is the fact that anybody who's an entrepreneur, y'all don't realize what Steve did when he said he interviewed his parents. Steve was doing market research. That stuff that we do not like doing. He was doing market research with his parents to be like, okay, before I make this next move, because this dude already done hurt my whole, him and God done hurt my whole plan. I got to come up with a whole new plan, and I don't got one. So what is the plan? Let me go find out what these people doing, because I'm accustomed, right? So like, when the people be like, I got to get a divorce and you got to pay me alimony, because I'm accustomed. He done told you he done been in $1 million houses. He been on private jets. He done been in courtside seat. He like, I'm accustomed to a certain type of, I'm eating good. I'm accustomed to a certain type of life. And I'm not about to switch my life up. And these people got a decent looking life. So let me go figure out what it is that they doing. And the beauty about people in those situations, they love to tell you what they doing.
I can go on and on about that. So like, it's a couple things. So like, I was the So one of the things I probably do the best is I understand perspective. And when you understand perspective, you have a responsibility for empathy. So I'm always looking at, I'm always just looking and I'm learning and I'm a sponge. And so it's what I feel for people that we have to do a much better job of is be intentional about improving what's called your choice matrix, right? In a choice matrix, the empathy side of having a choice matrix says, I only understand what I know based on my own experiences and the people around me, right? So meaning I'm only as strong, I'm only as smart, I'm only as whatever. So my choice matrix is only as limited as the people around me know, right? So then that means we have to be intentional about expanding our choice matrix by being around people who just know more. You can read more, because what happens is when opportunity comes your way, you just won't see it. It just won't so opportunity would just pass you because your choice matrix won't allow you to understand the opportunity. So when I saw when it was time to give up London athletics, fundamentally, I understood it, right? I didn't want to do it, but I understood it, right? When I saw the opportunity to get into finance, because my choice matrix expanded, when they explained to me what they were doing, it clicked. I'm like, oh, I get it. When I realized at that moment that if you can trust me with your kids, you can trust me with your money, right? I have your most prized asset, and in most people's lives, your second most prized asset is your cash. So I knew that it wasn't about the skill, it's about the gift. So my gift is to people. So I just had to improve the skill that made my gift make sense.
Break that down. Y'all, he dropping so many nuggets. I don't know if y'all picking up everything he's saying. He's not making it super, you know what I'm saying? He's not making it super businessy. He ain't making it super, he making it plain. Like, really, the first person you got to get to know is you, right? That self-assessment, figuring out what you bring to the table, who you are. He calling them gifts, right? That lets you know his people done brought him up in the church. Okay. Right? Right? That's the church people talk, right? But when we looking at it, y'all, you go on an interview, these people will ask you your strengths versus your weaknesses, right? So you gotta look and be like, well, what strengths do I bring to the table? What are my tools, are my toolbox that make me shine? And they gotta be realistic. And you gotta take them things and throw them against the wall. But you also, an easy way to do this is to go to your what do people usually ask you for? What do people you normally introduce you for? Or what, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes we be delusional, right? So, like, for instance, I do not have a six-pack, but in my head, I got one.
There you go.
I done had 4 kids, right? And it's not that I can't get one. I got pictures where my stomach was flatter. And I keep telling people, like, every time I had these kids, I was going to drop them. And I was like, my stomach was immediately going to go in my head. That was delusional. My husband would let me know, girl, you stupid, right? And I'm like, well, look at my stomach. He was like, you look like you just had a baby. That's what you look like. I mean, I love you, but you look like you just had a baby. And I'm like, so, my abs not popping? He's like, no, get it together, right? So we'll tell ourselves lies. We'll be delusional, but think about the stuff that you like. What do people go to you for? What do they pull you for? What are they like? Yo, like, you know what I'm saying? Because as y'all can see, you got 2 extreme E's on this podcast right now. And what do people really know you for? And what are you known for? What do they come and ask you questions for? And what do they seek you out for? That's a great place to start, because if your inner circle is doing that for free, right? Then somebody else may want or need what you give in the way that you give it.
Absolutely.
For a fee, if you package it up and you deliver it the right way.
Easily. And
that's where they talk about being authentically you. Like, we'll use these terms and these coins and these phrases, But that's really being authentically you. And really when people come and ask you, hey, when they were asking you, hey, Steve, come help me with this, or when they call how you got the term Steve the finance guy, I love talking about this stuff. I
100%
absolutely
easy.
enjoy it. I would do it for free. I don't
Easy.
have to, but I would love to. It wouldn't be no problem. When I go into these
Because
rooms,
yeah,
it pours
and you're
out.
right. And you're right. And the reality is that to your point, my strength was being able to speak to people and talk to people in ways that people can understand what I'm what I'm saying. So communicating. So then now, since I'm a pretty good communicator, adding everybody that communicates, I can monetize communicating by communicating money, right? Everybody wants to talk about money. And so I realized that. So now it's about what I'm communicating. And then so I had to learn the skill of money. And then my value increased. And now, and because remember, that goes back to my earlier story. I
Yeah.
had trouble in these rooms because my value hit a ceiling. So now, because I'm in finance, anybody that I talk to, I add value. Right. I don't anybody I shake hands with want to talk to me. Right. You know what I mean? Like, and so because everybody talks about, they want to talk about their personal money, they want to talk about their business money, they want to talk about, right. They want to talk about business. And so that was something that made so much sense to me. And to your point, how I got to become the finance guy was people, and I know I told you this earlier, but before, but people would literally, I became, in business and people started knowing me for that. And so people struggle with money. People are really good at their gifts, but they struggle with money. And so when they find that person who they trust, they will call me and say, "Hey, this is my finance guy. If he say it's all right, I'll do it. This is my finance guy. Can you read over this? Let me know." And the name just kind of stuck. And then from there, and I ran. You know what I mean? I ran with it. And so, Steve the finance guy was 1,000% birth that way.
I love it. I told you that. I said it's so catchy. It's so authentic. You're a very, like you said, when we talk, you're a very genuine person. You can tell that not only it's finance is a way to get to talking to people so you can deal with people.
Come on now. That's it. That's it.
Right? And when we get down and we start peeling our layers back, we start to realize we're more similar than not. And it allows you to go into, as you said, in the rooms that only truthfully God can open for you. Because they stop
Yes,
looking at your height, they stop looking at your complexion, wait a minute. They test you with a couple of things in the industry and they be like, whoa.
Can I tell you something crazy?
Go ahead.
Can I tell you something super crazy? The type of business I had stopped me from getting to know the people I wanted. But once I got the business I wanted, you realize that the only thing that matters is the people in the business, right? So once I crossed that barrier of finance, then the only thing that mattered was the people. Right. So and so it was like people is the reason why their finances isn't what it is. It's the people. And so I was like, man, once I crossed that barrier, my job became easier because people just want to be normal. People just want to be heard. People just want to be right. And so it was, and when I was in London Athletics, they wouldn't give me the time to even get to know that part of them because it was all strictly business. But once I got into that level, into that room, and I was a part of that level, then I became the star because I'm the regular person. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm the only person in this thing, that's the regular person. And I easily drop that, that guard that people have. And I make people feel comfortable about not knowing. I make people feel comfortable about, because I'm like, yo, I live this life. I live the regular life. You know what I mean? So are we gonna talk like regular people or not? Or I can go somewhere else, please. You know what I mean? What we doing?
I of it. Who do you think you're talking to? That's exactly how I do when it comes to tax. I be like, y'all. That's what I tell people. Taxes is, yeah, we got rules and stuff, but taxes is it's just addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And the reason why I can tell you that is because I done took calculus twice.
Come on now. And it's not that.
And
right.
It ain't calculus. It ain't derivative. You understand what I'm saying? I done took statistics more than once for my undergrad and my grad. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. We just really breaking it down. And Steve, the beauty behind finances and money and accounting in this industry, most people don't realize. Before I'm like, give me your numbers, give me your financial, let me look at your stuff. Because I can tell from your numbers what type of person you are. You can sell me on anything. But as soon as I start looking at your stuff, the conversation, I'll be like, let's be real. What you really doing? And they'll be like, huh? I'm like, look, because you're going to tell me this, but this tell me something different. I audited for 21 years. We're going to get past that. I know how to ask questions. I know how to I know how to read criteria. I know how to get what I need out of you. So how we going to do this? What kind of conversation we going to have? Let's just 100%. Have a plain conversation.
Because at that point, one of the things I break, one of the first things I break is the emotion that's attached to money. Because a lot of us, our decisions, we typically run our businesses like we run our household finances. And because that's the only matrix of or understanding of handling money that we know, because because we've been handling our own money consistently for a certain time period. And so when we get into business, that's all we do. We do it the way that we know to do it. And we'll probably pick up things as it comes our way, and we'll add things and we'll grab things. But because we don't know, that it makes us vulnerable to information. So anything that makes sense at the time, we're going to do, or we're going to try. And the problem with that is trial and error in business costs you money, and it, you know what I mean, and it costs you a lot of money with trial and error in business. And so what I realized with people in finance is that I'm gonna go on a tangent. Because I love us. I do. I love us.
And when he say us, just make it plain. Us.
Yeah.
It's different people with us. Out of minority 100%. Persuasion, we do stuff a little bit different.
We do. I mean, and the reality is that like I said, I do have empathy. We have to realize that business decisions are either effective or ineffective, and not good or bad, right? In the finance world, in the finance world, when we do things good or bad, our emotions are evoked in that, right? So so then that causes either a downward spiral of a trickle down effect of things, or it may cause an upward. So meaning, if it's good, I'm going to keep doing it. If it's bad, I'm the worst, whatever. I'm gonna probably make even more bad decisions going forward, right? So it's a trickle down effect. When you can change the verbiage from good or bad to effective and ineffective, then whatever you did, you're able to literally change it right there. It's not good, it's not bad. It worked or it did not work. So then based on it working, then I can then change the model. I can change the what's name. I could redo it. I could re-strategize. And so we can't take business as a personal attack on who we are. And a lot of times we use business as a reflection of who we are. And there are so many different factors in business that are completely maybe out of our control, that we don't know. There are environmental factors. There are barrier factors. There are, external factors. If you don't know about customers, if you don't know about buyer behavior, if you don't know about, there are so many things that contribute to that bottom line, just off of that's not based on who you are. And a lot of times we base on business of who we are, and I want to completely eliminate that totally. Right. And so, just and it's a learning curve. It's a learning curve. And so, I love being a part of that learning curve. I like to call myself the financial solution to small business problems.
I love it.
So yeah.
I absolutely love it. Steve, you just make me smile. I told you that the other day. You just truly, you just truly make me smile because everybody got their tribe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody gonna pick up on stuff from a different frequency. I can say it a certain way and I'm gonna attract a certain type of people. You saying the same thing and you're gonna attract a different type of people. But we can still come and collaborate and be like,
easy.
And then it what we call in the church, right? That'll be the breakthrough people need, right? To be like, oh, Jesus, you was trying to tell me this whole time, and then all of a sudden it break through and everything, and then you're like, oh, my cup runneth over. And
yeah, it is.
I'm big on language. And so I love that terminology of ineffective and effective, because I try to teach anybody who deals with me. I'm like, okay, when we have these conversations, let's change the lingo. Let's, like, your vocabulary, and every industry has its own vocabulary, right? Your vocabulary makes a difference. And when you're going anywhere, I tell anybody, especially my clients that's trying to go get funding and things of that nature, I'm like, first and foremost, y'all doing this backwards. Y'all need to go learn the lingo in that industry so you can understand how they look at it versus how we're looking at it, so that we can make it work in your favor. So you want to come and ask me questions and make it look one way, and I'm like, yo, but I play the game different than they play the game. So you have to understand how they're playing the game over there so that we can make it work in your favor, so you can go and do the things that you're trying to do.
And we have to stop taking it personal, right? Right. So meaning banks are not our friend, right? They're
a resource.
Banks should be your best business partner in the world, right? Because what happens is you have people who like I used to say this all the time, right? I remember growing up, and I remember we used to have this thing called testimony service. And I'm just so how old I am. We had testimony service, and so they would have people really stand up and give their testimony, right? And I remember specifically a lady, I won't say her name, but she stood up and she said, you know what? God bless me. You see that car outside? God gave me a car. Da 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 da. And I remember her saying, it's so funny how I remember this, but she said, I went to that lot and they said no. I went to that lot and they said no. And I went to that lot and they said no. And then by the time I went to the fifth lot, they gave me a car. And I was thinking about it. I said, I think that's called predatory lending. Like I said, like I'm like they're not supposed to do that. Like God didn't bless you with no car. You know what I mean? Like that's like against the law. Like, because what ends up happening is what we think is that the banks do us a favor, right? They don't. What ends up happening is it's risk analysis on the bank. I tell people all the time, if I gave yourself a blank if you didn't know yourself and I gave yourself a blank profile of your business financials, of how much you make, of how much you whatever, would you loan yourself $100,000? If you didn't know yourself, like, would you loan yourself based on the information?
You took all of it. Like, look, let's make this decision. Let's be real.
Let's make this easy, right? Let's make this easy. Let's make this the easy way for you to understand. If you didn't know yourself and you gave yourself just the whatever piece of papers that just has all your information on it, the way it is, the way, and you had $100,000 in your pocket, do you think it's a good risk, right, to give yourself $100,000? And if you do, at what interest rate, right? What is the money you would make on top of that? Would you probably charge yourself 50% on the dollar, right? You know what I mean? Like if based on your own financials. So I said this is actually not hard. The goal is to put yourself in the position for people who don't know you to analyze a piece of paper and be able to say, hey, I feel good about giving this business, this person, a certain amount of money. And that's based on your credit score, which is based on your history of paying other people. So that means if your credit report or your credit score shows, it indicates that you don't pay other people, right, and you got collections with other people, then why would I loan you anything, right? Because you're only gonna do the same thing to them as you do to me. I mean, you're gonna do the same thing to me as you do for them, right? So it's, I try to break it down as easy as possible, right, for people to understand. Like banks are not like, bro, you can get money from banks. It just has to look a certain way for them to feel safe and good about loaning you the money. And the easiest way to do that is what would you need to see, right, as a regular person, right, for you to loan somebody money? What documents, what tax documents, what, right? And so that's, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Be getting passionate, like I be getting passionate about stuff. Like, what in the world? Who told you to go do that? People go do it, and I'm like, why didn't you come talk to me first? Because I'd have been like, I wouldn't get them. I know what these look like. Don't get this to nobody. Don't. Let me tell you what it say. Don't do this. Don't
100%.
do it. Let's try a different avenue. There's other avenue. Like, okay, well, let's get ourselves, like you say, get in position. Let's work together. I am one of your team members. So I absolutely enjoy. Y'all see why anybody who listen to this, y'all understand why I was like, ooh, I got to have you on the podcast, Steve.
For sure.
This is a connect that y'all need to have. Steve, tell the people how they can reach out to you. If they're like, yo, I like how he puts stuff down. Like, where can they find you so that they can get more of, even if they just want to do a consult or if they just want to do anything like that, how can they find you?
So I'm all things Steve the Finance Guy. So I'm gonna be totally honest. This is, in the last couple of years, this has all been new for me, right? To kind of brand myself and do all those things, right? Because I've always been the behind the scenes guy that everybody just kind of knows. You got to know me to know me. But so here recently, I've been working kind of hard because I'm terrible at being consistent on social media. But I'm on social media, y'all. Like all my links and everything is Steve the Finance Guy. You could, at this point, you should be able to Google just Steve the Finance Guy, and you see a big smile that pops up, right, of me. I do have a website at stevethefinanceguy.net, and so you can find me, all links, all my information, my console. Click whatever link you feel comfortable with that fits where you are in your business, and reach out, and let's get you right, for sure.
I absolutely love it. I'll make sure that everything is in the descriptions on every platform. So like when it goes out to Apple Podcasts, so if you see it, look, like actually go in there and go look. We'll make sure we get the hyperlinks and everything on YouTube. We'll make sure we get the hyperlinks and everything like that. This won't be the last time y'all hear from Steve, just like it's not the last time you hear from my girl Miranda Harper Penn, or my husband, who's like, I'm ready to be back on the podcast, right? So I like to bring everyday people on because y'all understand, like, we are both in the accounting, numbers, finance industry, right? So that financial arena, we are both in it. We both tackle it differently, but we are still very similar. Okay, so he's a male, of course. I'm a female. God is intertwined all up in it. We are authentically who God created us to be. I tell people, it's funny that you use gifts, Steve, because I tell Miranda all the time, I'm like, girl, this is how I look. This is how it looked like to me, really. I think when before we was here and we was all hanging out in heaven, this is how I see it, right? That Jesus was walking around and we was all doing all this kind of stuff. And when Jesus went past, some of us recognized Jesus went past and was like, oh, there go Jesus. Let me go get some, he handing out stuff. Let me go grab, right? So I tell her she got in line like a bazillion times because she just got all these things. I only got in line a couple times. Because sometimes I was over there socializing and drinking and being married. This is how I see it. This is how my, you know what I'm saying, my sanctified mind works. And I'm like, Jesus going out here, and he gave gifts to all of us. Because anybody, who truly follow, like before we got here, everybody got something. Everybody came into this world with something. It is on us to ignite that something so that the world can get the benefit of that something that God loved us so much for, that he gave it to us so that we could work together and collaborate with one another to make our environments a better place. Ours just happened to be in this arena. Ours just happened to be with loving on people and being able to give them something practical so we can actually start to work with them heart and soul matters. Most people don't realize that. That's what happens. In this arena, when you said it, trust people with the most important asset, their kids. Then the second thing, people really like, yo, but you can't be messing with money because I might cut you for my money. Okay. Once you get past that, you start to deal with the person. And you start to be like, all right, let's take this emotion away. Let's take the emotion away. Let's make it practical. And then while you're working on a practicality, I know you see this with your clients, they start to shift. They start to be, you know what I'm saying? Because if you ain't got enough money, you react a certain way. If you got too much money, you act a certain way. If you're trying to figure it out, you act a certain way. And when you start to alleviate that and you give them the tools to show them how much they're in control of this whole game that they're playing, how they show up in life, how they show up as business owners, how they show up to their family, how they show up to their friends, how they show up to their associates is totally different. But we got to get past all this other stuff first. So I commend you. Thank you, first of all, for your time, because time is finite. Okay.
Awesome. This is absolutely awesome.
I thank you for your time. I thank you for letting me lead you on a conversation. I thank you for being so honest and transparent. Thank you for sharing your story. Y'all don't hesitate. Don't stop. Don't pause. Don't run. Y'all, I'm telling y'all, don't get on the internet. Go check out who Steve is. Go look at his reels. Go look at his videos. Really, go get them nuggets. He's talking about all things. Y'all heard how he talked about credit. Y'all heard how he talked about bank. All things finance. And if you want somebody who's going to be trustworthy and honest and look like you, right? For those who are like, yo, I'm looking for a dude I can trust.
Absolutely. I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Check him out. Check him out. So that's all I got, Steve. I'm going to give you the last words. What do you want the people to know? Not only about just what's your last thing to close this out for this week's podcast?
So I don't know if you're in business, I would find a way to be your authentic self. And in most cases, your authentic self is your niche. And so I always say if two people are doing the same thing and offering the same thing, then one of you is irrelevant. And so you know, you differentiate by being yourself. So, you know, trust yourself in any environment. You know, the best is always room for the best at the top. So the cream always rises to the top. So just keep honing in your craft and you're always good.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so very much. Y'all, this won't be the last time y'all hear about Steve. This will not be the last time y'all see me and Steve in some sort of collaboration. So definitely, if y'all want more stuff of this, definitely just reach out, let us know. And we look forward to hearing from y'all. Peace.
Let's do it. All right.